In Pali, good, thank you. All right.
Can you just say that first little opening line again now that you're recording? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be looking at the four Brahma Viharas, or the four immeasurables, the four infinite minds. And today we'll start with loving kindness. Loving kindness is like the basis. It's the introduction. It's the entryway into the four immeasurables. And the other measurables are supported by our loving kindness practice. So just a little bit to get us steered in that direction. In Pali, the word metta, metta bhavana, metta means loving kindness or goodwill, benevolence, non-harm. There are many ways that it's translated and understood. And really it's referring to this wish that we're cultivating for the happiness and well-being of ourselves and all beings. And so it's like an altruistic wish. It helps us to get outside of ourselves. Although we can wish it for ourselves, we are one of all living beings, but it helps us to increase our altruistic intention. And the beauty of these qualities is that they can be grown boundlessly. Because it's a positive state of mind, loving kindness can be developed to an infinite degree. That can't be said of negative states of mind like anger or hatred, resentment, those things. But with loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, we can develop them further and further to a consummate point. So that's kind of exciting. And I like to think about generosity, loving kindness as a practice of generosity. Sometimes it's included within generosity, and it makes it safe to think about it this way because we're just giving. We're not expecting anything in return. When it's practiced purely, there's no self-interest. It's just an open flow that goes one way. May you be well, may you be happy. So I like to think of it that way. And what's beautiful about this is that the more we promote the happiness and the well-being of others, naturally we promote our own well-being, our own happiness. So it's a win-win in that regard. And then the word bhavana means to cultivate, to meditate, to increase qualities that we haven't cultivated before. What's interesting about these four immeasurables is that on one hand, we are newly cultivating them. We have seeds for them in our mind stream already. We all have experienced love, loving kindness. But we can, with focused meditation, we can increase those. So that's one aspect of the practice. Another aspect of the practice is that the more we do these practices, it's almost like we're discovering a deep well of loving kindness that was already there. And I'll bet those of you who've done some practice, you know this, like when you go on retreat and all of a sudden your heart is opening in a way that you don't recognize. Like it's just there's just such a beauty. Does that ring a bell? So both of those things seem to be true. So I'd like to begin by reciting the Karaniya Metta Sutta. It's very short. And my favorite translation is the Amravati translation. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's quite short. And as we listen to the sutra, we can recognize that loving kindness cultivation is so much more than just a good feeling. You know, it's so much more than just trying to get a little bit of happiness from changing our thoughts. Because as we go through the sutra, you'll see in the beginning part, it's talking about the qualities of someone who is interested and serious about cultivating loving kindness. So it talks about, you know, not despising anyone and not harming anyone. And what's the other one? Not deceiving anyone. There are a number of these descriptions. So right there, we can see that in the Buddha's description of loving kindness, it's based on the practice of ethics, ethical conduct. I don't know if you talk about the higher trainings in ethics, concentration, and wisdom in the Pali tradition. You do, okay. So the three higher trainings are listed or they're exemplified in the sutra. So right away we see there's a basis of ethical conduct. And then in the middle of the sutra, it talks about the recipients of our loving kindness. and also how to cultivate loving kindness. So that's demonstrating how by using this practice, we can actually, a serious meditator can develop the dhyanas, the absorptions, the different higher states, the higher realms. Again, that's a serious practitioner. I don't know anyone who's done that yet, but I'm looking for that person. And so that's showing us that the higher training and concentration is also exemplified in the sutra. And then the last verse, we'll see, it's talking about using this sutra to go beyond. And so it's alluding to insight and nirvana. And so right there, we've got necessarily that would include the higher training of wisdom. So let me just read this to you quickly. Got it on my computer. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and yet to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. So, my own experience of reading this sutra is that it calls me to my greater goodness. It calls me to those qualities, which I aspire to. I don't always exemplify them. My speech is not always gentle. Is yours? But I aspire to that. And so this reminds me of what I'm aiming for. So the degree to which we can cultivate this loving kindness, this attitude, really depends on the degree of our mindfulness. So our mindfulness practice itself, I think, is an act of loving kindness for ourselves, right? It brings so much peace to the mind just to stop and slow down, to focus on the breath, or to focus on whatever object that we're working with. And loving kindness can become that object for us, the more familiar we become with it. So sitting, observing our breath and learning to quiet our minds helps us to overcome our obsessive mind, our compulsive mind, our delusional mind. It helps us to befriend ourselves, as you've probably discovered in your own practice. You know, it's amazing that scientists say that about 80% of our thoughts are negative, unwholesome, not really helpful. That's a large number of thoughts throughout the day. Now, maybe as practitioners, ours would be 78% negative instead of 80. I don't know. You have to check for yourself. What's also interesting is that very few of us can focus for longer than something like 3 to 7 seconds before being distracted. And so what's the cost of that distraction? You know, this is something that we need to investigate for ourselves. What would be the benefit of having a mind that is able to be stable, more calm and focused, and stable. I like that word. Also, a lot of our thoughts, I think we could say, are delusional. Just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. That's a sobering reality to come to, isn't it? The mind is churning out all sorts of thoughts throughout the day. And yeah, some of them are true, but probably a lot of them aren't. And do we stop to question them, to really check up? Because automatically, I think our impulse is to think, I thought it, it must be true, it must be wise, and I must follow it, I must obey it. But this gets us into trouble a lot of times. So the more we can increase our loving kindness, actually, we're not just trying to create temporary positive states of mind. That can be something that happens. But really I think what we're trying to do in this practice is to change our temperament, like our whole way of being in the world, our fundamental orientation to how we engage with people. In fact, that's my understanding of how it's presented in the Pali tradition, is that it has more of this connotation of basic friendliness towards everyone we meet. And I know that more from the point of view of thinking about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He says he often meets people as a friend, no matter who they are. His basic attitude is to meet people as friends. And sure, some people may not return that friendship, and then he acts accordingly. But to have, we might ask, where does that underlying assumption that we're all friends, where does that come from? And one way to answer that is to think about how when we truly understand our own deep innate desire for happiness, for well-being, for peace, when we really see that everything we're doing throughout the day, every way we use our body, our speech, our mind, our energy, our resources, if we really check up, what we'll find is that underneath all those actions is a desire for happiness, for peace, for comfort. Would you agree with that? Have you checked up? Like, if you really examine your day, what's the first thought when you wake up? You know, what was your mind thinking when you made that first cup of coffee or tea? Got to get just the right amount of sugar, or honey, just the right amount of milk. Is it 2% milk, or is it whole milk? You know, what do you think brings you the most happiness? When you're taking a shower, you know, we try to get the temperature just right, as if happiness can come right out of the shower. You know, and the decisions we make when we get dressed in the morning. Do you find this about yourself? Or maybe I'm, when we check up, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's like, in a way, it's like we're hardwired to seek happiness. But unfortunately, we settle for really low-grade happiness, oftentimes fleeting, unreliable, unstable kinds of happiness. And our nature allows for the fact that we can develop the causes and experience the results of a more lasting kind of happiness. And that's what we're aiming for when we seriously engage in a practice like loving kindness, especially when it's coupled with concentration and wisdom. So that's a very important investigation to do, is to really see, once we recognize how we're hardwired to seek happiness, and we understand that as our nature, then we can easily wish for ourselves to have happiness, lasting happiness, and wish that for other beings too. So I just want to mention a few of the benefits of loving kindness, and perhaps you've come across these before in your reading, but I'll read them because they're very inspiring. When we understand the benefits of something, it does tend to bring some energy to our practice, some enthusiasm. So I think this is from the sutra. Well, I'm not sure which sutra this is from, but anyway, these are the words of the Buddha. He mentioned these 11 benefits, and I'll bet we could even think of more benefits than are listed here. He says, monks, when universal love leading to liberation of mind is ardently practiced, developed, unrelentingly resorted to, used as one's vehicle, made the foundation of one's life, fully established, well consolidated, and perfected. Okay, that's a big list. That's a big if. There's some conditions there. Then these 11 blessings may be expected. What are the 11? One sleeps happily. A good night's sleep is a real benefit, isn't it? What wakes us up at night? It's not thinking, I was so kind today. I know for myself, if I wake up at 3 in the morning, it's often like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or Wish I had been a little more skillful in that area. Anyway, so one sleeps happily, wakes happily, does not suffer bad dreams, is dear to human beings, is dear to non-human beings. The gods protect us. No fire or poison or weapon will harm us. Our mind gets quickly concentrated. Our facial expression is serene and will die unperturbed. And even if we fail to attain higher states, we will at least reach the state of the Brahma world. So, like I said, I'm sure you can think of other benefits. Sarah, I just realized you were going to start with some meditation, and I just launched right in. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I think just adjust your program to, I think you've given us plenty to meditate with, if you want to spend some of the time meditating.
I tell you what, when we get to this section, I'd like to do a little bit of presentation, then some discussion. I've got some questions for you to investigate. And then I thought we'd do some practice together. So perhaps that would be a good point to actually spend some time doing some mindfulness meditation, breathing meditation, and then we'll go into the loving kindness meditation. Okay, good. Okay. So these benefits, I think even as people completely new to this practice, by doing a session of loving kindness meditation or a few sessions, that we could even begin to taste some of these benefits. Like it does bring a sense of peace and calm to the mind. And in my own experience, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, like when you're on retreat and you've done a lot of breathing meditation and your mind's just more settled, isn't sleep just wonderful at those times? It's more peaceful, more replenishing, more nourishing. So we don't have to wait till we meet all these criteria of ardently practiced and developed unrelentingly. We can start benefiting from it right away. I'm also reminded of the fact that the night the Buddha attained awakening, they say that the Maras were throwing arrows of doubt and arrows of anger and all sorts of things at the Buddha, and his loving kindness acted as a shield, and those arrows turned into flowers. Do you remember reading that, or is that more from the Sanskrit tradition? Okay, good. Also, there's a story of his jealous cousin Devadatta unleashing a mad drunken elephant trying to harm the Buddha. And again, the Buddha, his followers ran away, but the Buddha just stood there and opened up his heart towards this living being. And the elephant was subdued immediately. This is the story anyway. I can believe it. He was subdued. He bowed down and showed reverence for the Buddha. I'm also reminded of I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, but I'm reminded of a story. And we have some friends at Abhayagiri. Did I mention this? I mentioned it yesterday. Maybe I'm thinking of that. We have some friends at Abhayagiri Monastery in California. It was either last year or the year before. Fire was threatening their property. And they're kind of down in a bowl. So it's like the way it was described, it was a natural place for fire just to go quickly, to progress quickly. And the firefighters were amazed that the fire came up to the property, and how the monks described it is that the fire almost turned around and went back the other way. I wish I'd seen it with my eyes, but this is how the monks described it. And I can only imagine that was due to the purity of their practice, whether that included, I'm sure it included loving kindness, but also all the other things that they practice. Maybe you have.
We've seen it, yeah. There's also a trail there that the fire guys used as a fire break, but it stops there, and apparently the firefighters were just stunned.
Yeah.
And it didn't jump the path.
Yeah. There are, in the Sanskrit tradition, there are a lot of stories about very holy beings who had cultivated great loving kindness, great compassion, who could turn back all sorts of adversities with the power of their mind, the power of their heart. So And the amazing thing is that this is the potential of every single one of us because of the very nature of our mind. Our mind is not inextricably mixed with the afflictions. The mind is pure and the afflictions are adventitious. They are there simply because there's causes for them, and they can be removed when those causes are removed. And in addition, the positive qualities, the positive temperaments like loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, wisdom, skillful means, concentration, all of those can be further developed with the mind as a basis. And as I mentioned earlier, to their utmost extent, to a consummate extent, to the point that they can't be further developed. Okay, so there are many, many ways to meditate on loving kindness. And I imagine that you've been exposed to some of those. Keep in mind that the spirit of loving kindness is generosity. It's a practice of generosity. It's like we're giving a gift. Just like when you give a birthday present to someone, you're just giving, hopefully, we're just giving without any thought of expecting anything in return. It's just a one-way flow. And so generally, loving kindness practice focuses on two things. One is the repetition of phrases. And the second is the recipients. So in the various practices that I've come across, these are the two aspects that have some variation in them. For example, Sharon Salzberg, who comes from the Burmese tradition, she's one of the co-founders of IMS in Barre, Massachusetts. She keeps it really simple. So the phrases that she focuses on are, may I be safe? Well, you know, we'll just start using the I, the self as the recipient. So may I be safe? May I be happy? May I be healthy? May I live at ease? And she even drops the may I after a while. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy, be at ease. Her co-founder, Jack Kornfield, takes a little more poetic license. And so he embellishes it just a little bit. He says, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I be well in body and mind. And may I be peaceful and truly happy. So he adds a little bit to that repetition. No problem with adding words that really resonate with us. So that's important, to find the words that move our heart and our mind. And then maybe some of you are familiar with Bhikkhu Bodhi from the Sri Lankan tradition. We have a nice connection with him here at the Abbey. And so his is just slightly different. He says, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be safe, and may all my good purposes be fulfilled. And I don't know if he added that personally himself, that last line, or if that was something that he found from his tradition. May all my good purposes be fulfilled. In other words, all my wholesome aspirations, may they quickly come to fruition. And so maybe you are familiar with other wording, but I thought that to begin with, it would be interesting to take a few moments to really investigate for ourselves what these words actually mean to us. So for instance, may I be happy. We can think about ordinary, mundane happiness, everyday happiness of having a nice cup of coffee or tea. But we can also think about spiritual happiness, you know, the kind of happiness and well-being that comes into our body and mind when we're practicing well, when we're on retreat, when we're really delving into our practice. We can also think in terms of temporary happiness, the temporary happiness, fleeting happiness of this life. We can think of more long-term happiness, like liberation, nirvana, or in the Sanskrit tradition, a full awakening. So let's just take a few minutes here and look at these 4 repetitions. So I just invite you to go inside and just notice how you're holding each of these repetitions, each of these aspirations. So just we begin by thinking about, what does happiness mean to you? If we're going to be wishing ourselves and others happiness, what does that happiness mean to you? What would it include? And what is your understanding of being happy in body and mind, being healthy in body and mind? Well-being. What would that include for you? If you're wishing that for yourself and for all these categories of beings that we'll talk about in a minute, what is it that we're wishing? We wish for others to be healthy, to have well-being, to be healthy in body and mind. And what does it mean to you to be safe, to be free of danger, internal and external danger? How do you know when you feel safe? And what would it mean to really live with ease? would that include? Okay, so if you wouldn't mind to unmute yourself, and then we can just spend a few minutes sharing what we discovered, and in this way we can learn from each other. Sometimes this camera goes blurry. I'm not sure why that is, but do you see that? I've just become a little more diffuse. It might correct itself, or I might just disappear altogether. I'm not sure.
In the best possible way.
If I come close, I come close. Okay, that helped. Tricks of Zoom. What did you come up with? What does it mean to you to be happy when you're wishing that in this loving kindness meditation? What kind of things come to your mind? May I be happy. May you be happy. How do we take that beyond just a real superficial understanding? Don't be shy.
Well, I can say a few things. I've always loved Sravasti Abbey's. I'm echoing. I don't know why. That you're wishing for another person's happiness. It seems so simple and so beautiful. Wishing for another person's happiness. That's the definition of love. And for me, that just is inclusive. When I think of that, it's always longer term. It's not just the moment. But when I wish my own happiness, I'm often, I really need to inject what is my long-term happiness, because it's a different equation and it's a different way to live. What promotes my long-term happiness, which means I'm not from the hard stuff. And I'm not just going like, how's it now? How's it now? How's it now? You know, that kind of thing, which I really have a habit of doing. So I have to inject what leads to my long-term happiness, and then I can encompass a lot more the hard stuff and see the beauty of the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm. And can I ask you, when you say the long-term happiness, what does that mean for you? How long are you talking about?
Yeah. You know, if I'm really good about it at my death, what do I want to feel like at my death? But at my death, but quite the end. Quite the end of the terminus. I usually think about, okay, I'm struggling with this thing right now, but in 6 months, how do I want this to have built my character?
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about others? What did you come up with? Sometimes there's an echo if someone has two devices on at the same time. So if you have a phone, you might turn that off. Or if you have another tablet or computer on, that might help. Anyone else like to comment? What about well-being? When you're wishing for yourself or others to be healthy. Obviously, we wish for ourselves to be physically healthy. What else did you include in that?
One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is with all of those categories you gave, but well-being is when, and it's really in my face right now with the fires, you know, threatening to, I mean, there's just been so many with developing this product. And so I think that it's not so much the like little things that I want to accomplish, but how I, my feeling of well-being is how I am with the difficulty itself. Not thinking that it has some magical formula, like if I have loving kindness, I'm going to get everything that I want, that it'll come off without a hitch. But how do you deal with the difficulties that are present? And that's the source of contentment and well-being, and contentment and well-being also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a healthy mind, an equanimous mind, really, that can, if things are good, your mind is still balanced. If things are challenging, your mind is still balanced. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
We have a newcomer here, Katie. Welcome, Katie.
Might take a minute to connect.
The word acceptance kept coming to me, to accept what was around me, and to be grateful at the same time, to be accepting and grateful for whatever was before me and around me.
That's
and around all of us.
Yeah. Two very important qualities to cultivate, aren't they? That brings a kind of mental health and physical health as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What about safety? The obvious one is safety from external threats like fire and flood and hurricanes and tornadoes, things like that. What else comes to mind with safety or danger, freedom from danger?
You know, what came to mind had to do with vulnerability. So safety, being safe means being able to stay vulnerable and open. So I think when we're under threat in any way, my tendency is to shut down. You pull back and you survive.
Yeah.
And it blocks that. So I think safety includes whatever that threat is that is interrupting your ability to stay honest and vulnerable.
Yeah, a kind of self-confidence, huh? That you can stay vulnerable and still be okay with that. That's beautiful. Yeah. Did any of you think about being safe from the afflictions or the kleshas? Those are my biggest threats.
Oh, those.
A couple days ago, a Sangha in Israel that's starting to, a Thai forest monastery there, was the founder's birthday, and he wanted to do a meritorious act. And, I was telling him about the fires we have in the Metta, and he said, oh, well, we don't have those fires, but we have the fires of hate here, and it's horrible, and that was a good one. I said, okay, I'll take the natural fires over that.
Yeah. And we might be interested, is there a connection between internal fires and external fires? That's beyond my realm.
There's also for me a safety, freedom from remorse.
Oh.
And that's the, you know, and it's all those fires during the day, how skillfully I'm dealing with them. Do I have remorse at the end of the day?
Yeah, nice.
And it's really it's a different view of safety. You know, I think for me, it's not, you know, if somebody shoots you that you're not going to die, but safety from fear and from hatred. I mean, it does come back to the kalesis, fear, hatred, and delusion. It's not that anyone's soft body, really fast moving, a world of fast moving hard objects, so things can happen. But the safety really is maintaining that love and kindness, essentially, in the face of everything.
That's a great protection. Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one is to live with ease. What would it be like, excuse me, what comes to your mind when you think of wishing yourself or others to live with ease? We could probably think of that in terms of immediate environment to live with ease, and in terms of immediate environment to live with ease. I've never had this experience on Zoom before. I think the slower we speak, it seems to be better. So thinking about living with ease with our family, our coworkers, people around us, our communities. But also, again, thinking about in the spiritual realm, how is it that, and some of you have mentioned this already, how is it that we go through our world with ease, with gratitude, with acceptance, with self-confidence, you know, with a kind of equanimity that can embrace everything. That's a real kind of spiritual ease. So I encourage you to keep thinking about what words mean to you, so that the more you're connected with them, the more feeling I think there is to bring to your loving kindness meditation. Okay, so that's a little bit about the repetitions. Again, the repetitions can be whatever words speak to you. So maybe you're reciting these rote phrases and you find that you want to wish something else, like may you live in a way that brings peace to yourself and those around you. That's fine. Just add whatever words come through. And the repetition is a little bit different in the Sanskrit tradition, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Typically, the recipients now, if we look at the second aspect, the recipients, we begin with ourselves. And we might think that wishing ourselves to be happy, healthy, live with ease, safe, we might think that's a little bit selfish or self-indulgent. But actually, the Buddha was quite clear in wanting us to have positive regard for ourselves. Let's see if I can find a quote. He said, "One who loves himself will never harm another." So it comes right back to unharmfulness, compassion, loving kindness. So we begin with ourselves. And in this day and age, there does seem to be rampant self-hate, self-loathing, self-denigration. So this practice is a beautiful remedy, a beautiful balm to begin bringing that kind of loving kindness. In fact, I'll tell you very honestly, I've had some meditations when I'm sending myself loving kindness and I just dissolve into tears, you know. Maybe some of us didn't get as much loving kindness as children as we would have liked, or even as young adults or older adults. And there's never a shortage of loving kindness. Isn't that a beautiful thing to keep in mind? That we can always wish ourselves to have the loving kindness that we're longing for, and begin to, or continue with the healing process, you know, so that we really trust that we are held in a universe that is benevolent and that we are loved. There's never a moment that any of us aren't loved. So we begin with ourselves. May I have happiness and the causes of happiness. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be free of suffering. May I live with ease. And that's going to be the foundation for everything that comes later. So spend time. That's a great place, great now, until we feel like we have a good basis to extend from. If we aren't comfortable with loving ourselves, how can we be comfortable really extending these good wishes, these benevolent wishes for others? So with each of the verses, with each of the phrases, you can spend 20 or 30 seconds, say the phrase and then just dwell. And just, I don't know how it actually happens, but it is like, it's almost like it comes from the heart. That's my experience anyway. And within a matter of minutes, there's some warmth that's starting to generate at the heart when I do this practice. I think in Asian traditions, they think more of the heart living, the mind living in the heart area rather than up in the head. They don't associate it with the brain like Westerners do. So perhaps this is our direct experience of the mind and the heart being very connected in our spiritual tradition, especially. So just going through the phrases slowly, one by one, and then repeating them again. So here's the challenge. The challenge is not to follow tangential thoughts or to get distracted with memories, to go off in completely different areas. So the practice does include mindfulness, consciousness. And when we find that our mind has wandered away into thinking, ruminating about the past, the future, some other situation, no problem, no need to judge. We can accept that. And just come back to starting again. In fact, I think it was Sharon Salzberg who said, that moment of coming back is the important moment. The fact that we do come back to the meditation. So we go through this repetition with ourselves. Then traditionally, in the Pali tradition, they talk about thinking first of a benefactor, or maybe a family elder, someone you respect, someone who has good qualities that you respect. And then, because it's easy to wish for them loving kindness. And again, go through each of the phrases, dwell, spend some time. Maybe you decide to go through the phrases 2 times or 3 times or 5 times. It really depends on how much time you have and just how much time you're devoting to the practice that day. After a benefactor, you think of a dear friend, and it's best not to include someone you might have strong attachment for. That just muddies the water, doesn't it? Because here we're just talking about pure love that goes one way. I heard a phrase one time that love wishes for the other person to be happy. Attachment wishes for the other person to make me happy. It's true, isn't it? When we're attached to people, we exaggerate the kind of happiness that they can give us. And right now, if we're honest, we would probably say that our love and our attachment is mixed. It's mixed together. It's hard to have really pure love, especially with people who are close to us. But what we're aspiring for is to increase the benevolent love and to decrease the attachment that gets sticky and starts having all sorts of self-interest involved. So we think of a dear friend, someone we can just easily love, just easily send loving kindness to. And then we challenge ourselves by thinking of a stranger, someone specific, someone we've seen, but we don't know much about them. Maybe someone who lives in your neighborhood that you haven't met, or a coworker, the person at the post office that you see every time you go in. So you really try to think of someone specific. And we might have to use some imagination here to imagine, what their life is like, wishing for them to have happiness. And then finally, we further challenge ourselves by thinking of someone we find difficult. I never have a problem bringing someone to mind. Someone who's just a little irritating, or if you really can't find someone who you find difficult, then maybe think of politicians or yeah. So we think of someone that maybe enemy is too strong, but we might think of someone who's a troublemaker, or someone who challenges us or doesn't agree with us, or just someone we find difficult. And again, we might have to imagine into their lives, what would it be like for them to have happiness? Would they still be the jerk I think they are if they were really happy? Probably not, right? So we really, when we extend these wishes, we're really wishing, we're imagining, what would it be like for them to be happy? Mentally, emotionally, physically. What would it be like for them to be healthy in body and mind? Would they act the way they do if they were truly healthy in body and mind? May they be safe, particularly safe from their own afflictions, right? Their own kleshas. And may they live with ease. And imagine them living with ease. Imagine interacting with them with ease. So we really fill out the practice in that way. Okay. So I'm imagining that all of you have done this practice, right? You've all done this practice? Nod your head. Okay. What I find is that it just gets richer the longer I do the practice. And every time I come back to it and I review it and I think about it in more detail, it just gets richer. So since you've done this practice, I would like to introduce you to the phrases, which are a little bit different, that we find in the Sanskrit tradition, especially the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And I thought we would do some practice with them. So I'll just go ahead and introduce you to them, and then maybe Sarah, you can lead the breathing meditation. And then I'll come in when you're finished and do some loving kindness meditation, and we'll finish up that way. So in our tradition, the phrases are a little bit different. So we say, how wonderful it would be if you had happiness and the causes of happiness. So it's like it's taking all 4 of those phrases that we've been working with up to now and putting them into the category of happiness. How wonderful it would be if you had happiness and the causes of happiness. So it's like a wish. We're wishing for this person to have it. The second line is, may you have these. May you have happiness and the causes of happiness. So there we're moving from a wish to more of an aspiration. I want you to have these. May you have happiness and the causes of happiness. The third line is, I will cause you to have happiness and the causes of happiness. So it includes this sense of responsibility. And we may not know how to bring about happiness, but we're opening our minds to that. It's kind of like a resolve. If I can bring you happiness, I'm going to do that. So I will bring you happiness. I will bring you happiness and the causes. I shall cause you to have happiness and its causes. And then the last line is, Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Now that might be a little twist for Pali practitioners. But we could even begin this practice by imagining ourselves sitting in front of Shakyamuni Buddha. And in our tradition, we do a lot of visualizing. I don't know how comfortable that is for you, but you could imagine beautiful light, radiant light coming from the Buddha into you and increasing your ability to bring happiness and the causes of happiness, again, to yourself, to the benefactor, to the dear friend, to the stranger, and to the difficult person. So you willing to do a little practice with that, since it might be new and different? Okay, so Sarah, how about if you lead us in about 10, 12 minutes of breathing meditation? Would that work?
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, you've given us, I'm wondering if the, well, first of all, we're at a library and people are returning books.
Okay.
Sitting in front of a library.
Okay.
But I'm thinking you've given us enough to savor with the breath that you could lead us through the things you just said with the breath and a body scan, and it would be lovely. And it gives us a little time at the end to just wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay. So just try to find a comfortable sitting position to do some meditation. So typically, was it Deborah? Danby? What's your first name, Deborah? Especially for you being new to Buddhism, it's important that your back is straight, not stiff, but straight. That helps to support the flow of energy in the body. And, your hands can be just resting in your lap, one on the other, the right hand resting on the left hand with the thumbs touching, if that's comfortable for you. And just lower your gaze into the space in front of you. Your eyes can be open or closed or partially open, whatever's comfortable for you. And just let's begin with a very brief body scan, just starting at the crown of the head and just simply noticing whatever sensations are there at the crown. If you find any tension, just invite relaxation, ease. And then notice any sensations there in the face, around the eyes. Soften the eyes. Relax the cheek and the jaw and the mouth. Just allow your face to be open and spacious. Surrender to gravity. And bring your attention to the back of the head and the neck, the top of the shoulders. Just allowing the shoulders to drop to their more natural position. Sometimes we hold them up around our ears. Just really bring your shoulders down. Let them hang off the spine. And then just bring your gentle awareness, your attention to scan from the top of the chest, the throat, the top of the chest, just back and forth without any judgment, without any assessment, just noticing the sensations that are present, especially around the heart. You might experiment with just lifting your sternum a little bit. That tends to open up the belly area so that the breath will move freely and easily. And feel that. Notice the sensations as we move down the front of the belly. Softening, relaxing. Let go of any tension there. The belly's another storehouse for tension. Can be. And feel that relaxation all the way down to the sit bones, the groin and the sit bones, the contact that you make with the chair. And then start again at the top of the shoulders on the back. And again, just scanning over the top of the back, noticing for any sensations. When you find any tension, just invite relaxation. Gentle loving kindness. We can even have loving kindness in this gentle awareness, mindfulness. Just accepting what is, inviting relaxation, moving the awareness down through the back to the top of the hips, the buttocks. Again, noticing the contact we make with the chair. And then including the arms, each of the arms in your awareness, feeling the sensations of the top of the arm, the elbow, the lower arm, the hands, all the fingers. Just relaxing, releasing any tension. And then beginning with the upper part of the legs, relaxing those large muscles on the front of the legs, the quads, hamstrings on the back. Just relax your legs, your knees. Feel that relaxation moving down the lower part of the legs. Noticing the ankles and the heel, the arch of the foot, the ball of the foot, and all the toes. So just scan from head to toe, inviting relaxation, ease. Let go of any tension, just accepting what is, not making any judgments or assessments. And then let's just connect for a moment with our breath. And some of you will be familiar with observing the breath at the belly. Maybe some of you observe the breath more at the nostrils and the upper lip, whatever's comfortable for you. Just bringing your attention to notice the sensations with each new in-breath, each new out-breath. Just allowing the breath to be completely natural. We're not controlling it in any way. Just allowing the natural breath and noticing, paying attention to the sensations with a gentle awareness. If the breath is short, just let it be short. If the breath is long, just allow it to be long, just noticing each new in-breath in its own timing, each new out-breath. And just enjoying the pause at the end of the out-breath. And so we begin the practice of loving kindness from the Sanskrit tradition by focusing on ourselves. And so I'll just read through the phrases, and you can wish these for yourself. How wonderful it would be if I had happiness and its causes. You can just silently repeat the phrases to yourself. How wonderful it would be if I had happiness and its causes. May I have happiness and its causes. I shall cause myself to have happiness and its causes. Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. And now call to mind someone that you have a lot of respect for. It could be an elder or a teacher, maybe a benefactor, someone who's helped you in some way. Think of someone specific. And let's extend these phrases towards them. How wonderful it would be if you had happiness and its causes. May you have happiness and its causes. I shall cause you to have happiness and its causes. Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. And then call to mind a friend, a dear friend. And again, just making sure there's not strong attachment or sexual attraction. Just call to mind someone who there's just a pure love for this person. And again, let's extend these aspirations towards them. My dear friend, how wonderful it would be if you had happiness and its causes. May you have happiness and its causes. I shall cause you to have happiness and its causes. Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. And now see if you can call to mind someone you consider a stranger, someone you've seen, so it's someone specific, but someone you don't know very well. And let's extend our wishes to them. How wonderful it would be if you had happiness and the causes of happiness. May you have happiness and the causes of happiness. I shall cause you to have happiness and the causes of happiness. Or perhaps we could say, I will do what I can to bring you happiness and the causes of happiness. Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. And then finally, think of someone you find difficult or challenging, someone who's annoying, irritating in some way. Think of someone specific. And let's extend these same repetitions towards them. Oh, precious, difficult person, how wonderful it would be if you had happiness and the causes of happiness. May you have happiness and all the causes of happiness. I will do whatever I can to bring you happiness and the causes of happiness. Shakyamuni Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Okay, so just take a moment to dwell in whatever has been stimulated in your mind and your heart, just noticing. And while while the heart is a little bit more soft and open and full of loving kindness, let's just imagine sending out whatever loving kindness we've generated. Just imagine sending that out to all the other human beings on the planet, all the other living beings, especially those challenged by natural disasters such as fire and flood and hurricanes, tornadoes. People who are suffering, living beings that are suffering with lack of food and drink, unfavorable conditions. Just imagine sending out this loving kindness. May you have happiness and all the causes of happiness. Just bathing the planet. And then to conclude, you can just take a nice deep cleansing breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks for your willingness to do something new. How did you go with that? Any comments? Did this set of repetitions bring anything new to your awareness that maybe some of the more familiar repetitions didn't? Or maybe there was something that you missed? What was your experience like?
I really like the fourth, can I do what I can, whatever I can to help bring about someone's happiness. It's very beautiful. I still have trouble, and maybe even more so with the Sanskrit version of this at the very beginning towards myself, because it feels like I'm going to a candy store. I mean, I have happiness, and the conditions like chocolate, really good coffee. But as soon as I get away from myself, I can see there's perspicacity, you know, like I'm looking for the bigger arc for people. It's very interesting that way. And I really love the energy behind thinking about what you can do for others. Happiness. It's lovely.
It brings in a little bit more responsibility. It's wonderful just to generate loving kindness, no problem. But it invites us to go that next step of what can I actually do?
That's very
nice. Take responsibility to bring that about. And sometimes the conventions don't work, like the language. So I encourage you to find a language that will work for you around yourself. Yeah. What else came up? Sometimes we can feel that sense of warmth in the chest. Sometimes there's not much feeling for a long time. That's okay. There's no problem with that. The main thing is that we're creating more of this disposition. You know, we're cultivating this temperament to move in the direction of thinking of loving kindness, to promote our own friendliness towards self, others, anyone we meet. Okay, not a chatty group. That's okay. I thought to leave you with a couple of questions to ponder. So the first one is, what can I do in my daily life to cultivate loving kindness more deeply, more broadly, more richly? What can I do in my daily life to cultivate loving kindness more deeply, more broadly, more richly? So I invite you to just put that on a sticky note and put it on the fridge or your bathroom mirror and just ponder it as you go through your days. That's the first question. And the second question is, what can I stop doing that's impeding the spontaneous outflow of loving kindness? And that's equally as important, isn't it? What can I lessen or stop doing that's impeding the spontaneous outflow of loving kindness? And see what you come up with. These kinds of questions really challenge us and invite us to make the next step in our practice. Okay, so we're right on time. It's 10:59. Any last comments or questions that have come up for you?
The first little piece of homework, what can I do in my daily life to cultivate loving kindness more deeply and more broadly? Was there one other quality?
More richly. And then what can I stop doing that's impeding the spontaneous outflow of loving kindness? And what comes to my mind immediately is, well, I need to stop thinking about I, me, and mine. That's what gets in my way, being the center of the universe, right? When we can get beyond that self-centered, which is, I think, a strong habit for most of us. See what's true for you. Okay, so how shall we close up?
Well, I was considering, I felt like I should have taken notes I could send out to people, but since we don't have internet, it's a little challenging. But what I will do is make sure if anyone writes me at cascadehermitage.org, I will give you the link to this recording and you can take your own notes.
There you go. Self-responsibility.
Yeah, we'll post it where?
Cascade Hermitage.
On what? The website?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to just post. Yeah, actually, we'll post it on our YouTube. I think we can post it on the YouTube. We should be able to post it one way or another under it.
Then you can just let us know.
Yeah. I'll do that. And if you, for some reason, you're not getting it, just write us. And thank you so much for, it was wonderful.
Thank you all for joining this morning. And like I said, it's been a benefit for me just to put my mind on this again. So thank you.
It's beautiful.
All right. Enjoy your day loving.
It's nice to see everyone.
Thank you for the homework.
Yeah.